Do people even know that RANDUIN'S OMEN exists? I mean, we've got 2 YASUOs in the game. It's time people remembered. Hey there, Summers. Welcome back to another ProGuides episode. My name is Nathan Ng, and today we're going to be giving you guys our meta update headed into patch 10.16. Patch 10.16 is going to be crazy, and like always, we're going to do our best to help you guys be prepared so you guys have the best chances for success in your game. By the way, guys, another thing you can do to help ensure your success in the next patch is check out ProGuides.com, where we got coaches, courses, and resources to help you guys improve. Finally, for our question of the day, what's the most encouraging or exciting thing that someone has done for you in-game? For me, I always love it when I make a big play and the entire team starts spamming the ping on top of me. Sure, it's often used ironically, but when it's used for good reasons, there's just something about it that is so satisfying for me. Enemy missing? Absolutely, because they're dead. Let me know what your answers are in the comments down below. Okay, as always, let's kick things off with the top lane. Before we even talk about the champions or the champion meta, there's one specific item that we need to talk about in this upcoming patch, and that is RANDUIN'S OMEN. Seriously, do not sleep on this item even if you think it's a little bit weak. It's a situationally powerful item and you definitely want to build it in some of your games. RANDUIN'S OMEN is one of the best items that you can build to help mitigate critical damage. Currently, YASUO and ASHE are the 2 most popular picks in the game, and we need to remember that YUUMI is joining the champion pool next patch. All of these champions benefit heavily from critical strike chance. Like YASUO, YUUMI's passive grants him a multiplier on his critical strike, and aside from critical strikes, RANDUIN'S OMEN is also a pretty good answer to most AD champions, as it also reduces the attack speed of the champions. The 15% slow on attack speed is absolutely no joke, and this value is incredible and ultimately one of the best answers to many popular champions. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about champions, starting with SHEN. His win rate went up by a whole % this patch, and he is proving himself to be one of the best champions in the game, at least in solo queue. In competitive play, our analysts are certain that he'll be at least a strong contested pick at his current power level, but headed into the next patch, SHEN will be pretty much a solid pick in spite of the duelist receiving buffs. Fiora and Jax specifically are probably going to be receiving some buffs, but this shouldn't push SHEN out of the meta. Even if he gets outscaled, SHEN's incredible early game justifies picking him into these sort of matchups for the sake of the early game dominance and taking lane priority. While split pushers and carry top laners take games into their own hands, SHEN is able to impact the opposite side of the map heavily and play with his team. League has become more and more team-centered, and ultimately the dragon buffs this season are also extremely valuable, especially if you can manage to attain a dragon soul. Continue watching out for him in the next patch because he's an extremely powerful pick, but not many players are going to be willing to toss a ban at him just yet or even pick him because, in my opinion, he's kind of boring. Another champion who's gained footing in the current top lane meta is Irelia. Her win rate is almost up 2% this patch, and she'll retain similar statistics even into the next patch. Although 2 of her harder matchups are receiving buffs, once again, those are only 2 champions amidst the entire top lane champion pool. It's likely that with all of these buffs to split pushers, explosive 1v1 matchups will become more popular. Grab a duo partner and try to swing volatile matchups in your favor with the help of a buddy. And if you're having trouble finding a buddy or just having someone online at the time that you're playing, well, check out our Discord and probably get connected with some great people. Speaking of that Jax buff earlier, let's go ahead and talk about Jax. He's been dying off a tad bit, but he's getting buffed next patch, so be sure to watch out for him. His early game, which is arguably the weakest stage in the game, is receiving a massive buff because his E's early cooldown is being reduced. Finally, while he was a niche pick, Fiddlesticks is out of the top lane meta. The last nerf he received hit him rather hard, and Fiddlesticks has a lot less sustain than before, so he's not going to be a champion that you have to worry about as much. That wraps up our information in regards to the top lane. Now let's go ahead and head into the jungle next. Talking about the jungle, we're actually going to be first talking about the NIMBUS cloak. This rune actually holds a ton of power across all roles, but it's definitely most heavily cemented in the jungle meta at the moment. The combination of NIMBUS cloak and Chilling Smite gives the jungle so much power that we don't think that it's going to disappear in the meta next patch, in spite of the rune receiving a nerf. The good news is that Zoe gets indirectly nerfed by this, and I'm okay with that. However, it's definitely worth mentioning the nerf of this rune and how much it's going to impact the jungle meta. NIMBUS Cloak has paved the way for so many junglers because of the ridiculous amount of mobility that it provides. Less mobile junglers are going to suffer the most from the change to NIMBUS Cloak, and the other effect is that we'll see Skirmisher Saber gain a little bit more popularity as players will rely less on one of the strongest bonus movement speed combinations in the game. For champions, let's go ahead and talk about Lee Sin. Lee Sin was a solid S tier pick for practically the whole season, but this patch his win rate dropped a whole % in response to his nerfs. He's taken a big hit for sure, and while he remains the most popular jungle pick, he's far from the strongest at the moment. Play for style or play for wins. The choice is up to the player, and picking Lee Sin no longer covers both of these bases. While one champion falls, another one rises to take their place. Kha'Zix's ban rate is up 70% from the last patch, and it likely won't drop that much even though he's getting nerfed next patch. His win rate will drop a bit, and the ban rates typically will take a little bit longer to reflect any of these changes, as though they are decided by the mindset of the player base rather than the objective data as wins versus losses. Kha'Zix received a massive buff to his Q on patch 10.15 that increases isolation damage by 20% for some reason, and while that number is being reduced next patch, Kha'Zix is still going to be a pretty powerful pick because he thrives in disorganized play that results from solo queue environments. Another champion, or rather duo, that's rising up to claim the throne is NUNU and YUUMI. Their win rate is up a whole percent in the high elo since the last patch, and remember that their buff was all the way back in patch 10.13. Players are getting better at playing them, and the fruits of their labor are finally beginning to show. This champion literally snowballs across all ranks and all games, and this trend is consistent because their win rate is up a 0.5% when taking into account every game played this patch. NUNU and YUUMI are a solid choice to take onto Summoner's Rift, not only because they're a reliable frontline, but also because they can be played as a chaotic cheese pick. AP NUNU is becoming rather popular in both the jungle and the mid lane. On top of this, players have begun using Phase Rush way more often than before. Instead of taking Aftershock for tankiness, they want Phase Rush for more reliable lockdown. A very fair trade-off for sure. Let's go ahead and talk about Volibear. Unfortunately, he's going to be receiving a massive nerf next patch. While you still can, one of our biggest messages to you guys is to play him as much as you can. Abuse Volibear right now because he's going to be viable until next patch, but you're definitely going to notice that he's going to be weaker when the nerfs hit because it nerfs his mobility. His win rate has gone up a whole percent in high elo this patch, but like we just mentioned, he's getting nerfed next patch. Now is your best bet, take advantage of him. Volibear will be more likely to be easily kited once the patch rolls in, so he's gonna be a champion that's more easily abused and then avoided. And that's it for the jungle. Next up is the mid lane. Alright, for the mid lane, there are a few champions that we want to talk about. The first one is Twisted Fate. Long story short, he's out. Twisted Fate's win rate plummeted by 1.5% in high elo as well as all ranks. As a quick refresher, Twisted Fate's W was nerfed this patch and his early game cooldown went up by 2 whole seconds. This change has made him feel so much weaker, and it really sucks to be a TF player right now. TF is a champion that practically is designed to carry solo queue, as his ultimate allows him to impact either side of the lane with ease, and his crowd control is extremely reliable because it's just a point and click stun or slow. Or in my case, the TFs on my team, a point and click mana regen. With him out though, other roaming champions like Annie and NUNU are solid alternatives who feel a little bit more threatening considering that TF isn't in the best place right now. Our next topic in the discussion is SWAIN. So what's going on with him? What's the consensus? Headed into the next patch, the general opinion is that you want to play him if you're in the low elo and consider playing him here or there in the high elo. SWAIN's overall win rate is sitting comfortably around 53.5%. I'm certain that we all understand how high that is, especially considering he's been on down low for a while now. The last set of changes that he received were really nice for him, and he's also finding way more success as a support as well. The fact that he's performing as a support is big for mid lane SWAIN as well because, well, you guessed it, flex potential. Champion select ambiguity is a curveball that can be used to swing drafts in either team's favor. While our solo queue games aren't the same as the ones that we see on the big stage, there's no denying that flex picks definitely have some impact in our games. I know a pick like SWAIN isn't the most popular, and it can be pretty hard to learn someone like him as a result. Check out ProGuides.com and connect with our coaches if you want to help learn him as quickly as possible to improve your gameplay. Finally, let's talk about YASUO. He's always been popular, but he's a lot more popular this patch. Coincidentally, there were a lot less Zed games this patch and a lot more YASUO ones. Yone is coming out soon, so players might be reacting to the hype or just trying to finish the missions. YASUO is set to receive a minor buff next patch, so you definitely need to watch out for him because he's a pick that proves time and time again to be extremely difficult to deal with. Personally, I don't know why they're buffing him. He was in a pretty good spot, but hey, probably that new skin wasn't selling as well. AD mid laners are pretty popular at the moment, so our analysts want to quickly mention that you should probably consider taking armor as your flex rune rather than adaptive force. This isn't going to be the genius tech that wins you games, but it's definitely going to be some food for thought and might make your laning phase a little bit easier. 6 more armor is 6% more effective health against AD champions. Ultimately, things are always situational, but consider this upcoming example as a very dumbed down way of explaining why it can be a good choice, not necessarily an argument that is won every single game. Most champions start off the game with 500 HP, and you're probably going to be building Doran's Ring and 2 health potions. From level 1, not even taking into account your base health regeneration, that's 860 health to work with as long as you finish drinking both potions. 6 armor would then provide 51.6 effective health against physical damage, and comparatively, you would need to deal the same amount of bonus damage from 9 adaptive force to break even. This can be difficult at times, especially if you're trying to play passively and then farm up. Some extra armor will also help you tough it out against early serrated dirk purchases, which provide AD assassins one of their most important early game power spikes. Armor is pretty useful, not only for surviving the onslaught that AD champions often bring, but also great to have against minions. While I might be generalizing here, I'm certain that most mid laners still enjoy playing ranged mage champions here and there, but personally for me, I only like playing AD champions, so I force my jungler or top lane to go AP. Yeah, I'm that solo queue guy. When you're poking with basic attacks, you will take some damage from minions, and having some extra armor should help you shrug it off way more easily. That's going to be it for the mid lane. Let's go to the bottom lane next. We've got a few picks that we want to talk about, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. First is ASHE. ASHE has been undeniably one of the strongest marksmen. She's a dominant force in the bottom lane, honestly a pick or ban. ASHE is a solid pick for the entire player base, as her incredible utility is great for high elo players, while her forgiving skill floor makes a great entryway for newer and lower elo players to successfully play the game competitively. ASHE's win rate has dropped about 0.5% this patch, which honestly might make it sound like she's probably fallen out of favor. She still holds an astounding 52.5% win rate in platinum and higher, and a 52% win rate across all ranks. Started at the top and we're still almost at the top, at least that's the story of ASHE. While there is a planned nerf for her Q next patch, players shouldn't write her off. Her win rate will continue dropping, but there's no doubt that ASHE will remain an above average pick that hovers around the lower border of OP status. The queen of the bottom lane right now is CAITLYN. She received a seemingly minor buff this patch, but if you watch our vids consistently, you guys know that our analysts were doing the best to convince you guys otherwise. Her win rate has increased by 2% from receiving 2 base AD and 5 more movement speed. With no nerfs in sight for her, CAITLYN is going to be the most heavily contested bottom lane pick for the next patch. She's too strong and too safe to pass up. CAITLYN also scales quite a bit into the late game with her traps as well as her damage and range, and she's able to completely cut off some certain pathways with her traps and therefore limit the options that her opponents have. If you're not comfortable with playing her, I really do suggest that you guys contact a coach on her website. I know a ton of them are comfortable with her and they would be more than happy to help you guys learn her. Finally, let's talk about Lucian. He's receiving a massive buff next patch since his Q and R are both having their damage increase. Lucian hasn't been finding much success, but we really expect him to pop off next patch. In high elo especially, we expect Lucian to rise as the dark horse of next patch. Although he suffers from low range, his incredible burst damage and mobility aren't things that you can easily ignore. And that about covers up the bottom lane, so let's wrap it up with the supports. The first champion that we want to talk about for supports is actually Lux. This pick is a really interesting one actually. Lux finds the most success at the ends of the bell curve. At the extremes of high and mid elo, Lux's win rates are the highest, while towards mid elo, she's actually a little bit weaker. In low elo, she's oppressive because of her insane amount of crowd control, damage output, and powerful trading. In mid elo, players are able to capitalize on her squishiness with more aggressive picks, or they just play to outscale her instead. In high elo, she's once again an oppressive pick that's rather tricky to play around because of her poke, excellent shield, and crowd control. Overall, Lux stands as the second most popular support in the game, only being out by Thresh. There's too many Thresh montages out there, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure that Lux is happy to take a silver medal here. YUUMI received a good old compensation buff this patch, and she's making a hasty recovery. Oh, I hate this champion so much, man. She's starting to feel like a better pick day by day as players start playing her again. While YUUMI may not be someone that you want to blind pick instead insta-locking every single game, she's definitely a viable scaling champion if you randomly find yourself in a farm lane. Otherwise, you can still pick her consistently if she's one of your comfort picks. Ultimately, YUUMI's power comes at the price because she's a little bit harder to play right now. Only a little. Her win rate has leveled out around 48%, which is still pretty good considering it dipped to 45.5% following her nerf on patch 10.13. Good. Next is Bard, who's receiving some nerfs next patch. Bard has been arguably one of the strongest supports in the game, flaunting a 53% win rate in platinum and higher. With the upcoming nerfs, we expect Bard to take a pretty massive hit in his win rate. His base health and healing from his W are being reduced, so it won't be as easy for him to have the same dominance over the games before. As of late, Bard has been one of the go-to carry champions for high elo support players, and he'll still remain a decent choice headed into the next patch. It's highly unlikely that his win rate will drop enough that he will remain a strong pick, but it's extremely likely that other champions like Lulu and Janna might go ahead and pass his win rate. And the final support that I'm going to be talking about in this game are your friends. times are pretty tough right now, and the support of your friends and your family members are pretty important. So make sure you reach out to somebody, make their day. With that all being said, that concludes our 10.16 meta update. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and also subscribe so you can stay updated with all different kinds of content that we're releasing. With that all being said though, I wish you guys the best of luck on the Rift, and hope you guys are staying safe and healthy and have a wonderful day. Again, my name is Nathan Ng, and if you guys want to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, still kind of embarrassed about that one, my username is Nathan_ing. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Peace.